If you had a psych eval done, psychological evaluation done, and you had it done when they were in the 9th grade, say, or 10th grade, did that person doing the evaluation use child norms or adult norms? Because the college isn't interested in child norms. They're interested in adult norms. So that's just a little aside.
Yeah, I think that's why I interviewed some people from their lawyers out in California, and they were saying, wait till you get as close to the end of the high school year to get your child evaluated, because that's where those tests are going to make the most difference.
That's right. And it goes down to those norms, because that was one of the first things I looked at when I looked at a documentation, is to see what tests they did and what norms they used. So just a little secret of the trade, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that's really good information to know. And again, those tests help your student advocate for themselves.
They do.
Have that information, and it's black and white on paper.
And those usually come with suggestions and explanations, and it gives your child a chance to learn. It goes back to learning and understanding.
Right.
You know, if you need, when you take your test, for example, if you need a private room, or if you need a reader, or if you need some sort of an alternative format, which is a little trickier to do, but if you need those kinds of things, talking to the person who gave you the test and understanding what their recommendations are for the ways you where your strengths are and where your struggles are, and what you might be able to do to support those struggles.
Yes.
So it just helps you. It all goes and it all goes back to knowledge. How much knowledge you have, how much information you have. It really does.
Yeah. And we found too that, especially for my kids, those high school years, I wanted to make sure we tried as many accommodations as possible to see what worked, because I wanted them to know by the time they graduated what works for you and what doesn't.
Exactly.
So you can tell people with confidence, this works for me.
This works for me, and this, yes, exactly. So the more of that you can do, the better. And that makes perfect sense to me. Especially when you're in the homeschooling position, because so many of the things that you do and that you're working on, you are already teaching them skills to adjust. Right? I mean, so
it's constant.
My sister-in-law, who homeschools, said maybe by the time they get to that point where they're transitioning into college or into a job or into a vocational school or wherever they're switching to, that they don't need the accommodation because they already know how to accommodate themselves.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think you're doing a valuable service with supporting your kids already in that situation.
Yeah, if they can use those. And I think I had somebody ask about, speech to text at one point, and they're like, and where do I get that, kind of software? I'm like, Google. Everybody uses it. So
the Google speech to text is wonderful. It really
amazing.
is.
I use it every day.
Yep. Absolutely.
A lot of time, and I don't need the accommodation, but for those that do, if you can get your child to master that, that's great.
Yeah, so, there's one of the people I just interviewed. I didn't know if he caught it or not, but on my podcast, I knew him when he was a freshman in college, and he's now a PhD. And he has cerebral palsy.
Oh, I did listen to that one.
Yeah, and he said Dragon, naturally speaking, is his best friend. He uses it constantly. So that's because of the cerebral palsy affected his speech, and also it affected his hand movements. So he uses the technology all the time.
But it takes a learning curve to be able to use it.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. Once you get it down, then Yeah. It just becomes second nature.
And that goes back to self-advocacy. What do I need? How do I get it? Disability services can give you some things. Live scribe pens or those C pens. A lot of offices have those, and they can sign off the material, loan it to you. Basically, there's no charge.
Right.
They don't charge you for any of their accommodations, but they will give you, if they have it, they'll loan you equipment. Okay. If you need recorders or if you need those live scribe pens or Dragon or Jaws or whatever you happen to need, if they have it, they will loan it. If they don't have it, they can't, or if they can get it, they will. It just depends on the extent of the purchase. That's, again, that every college does it differently. Those are conversations you have.
So those are the questions you ask, and
what you need.
Teach your child how to ask.
Exactly.
Yes.
I used FM systems for deaf students, and an FM system is a microphone on the teacher and a receiver for the student that was hearing impaired. Not completely deaf, but hearing impaired. And I can remember one. We had them. We had the FM system about the size of a pack of cards, deck of cards, or pack of cigarettes, that sort of size. And sits in your pocket, and microphone on your shirt, and a receiver in your ear, and there's nothing to it. It's really a good system. And the biggest thing is making sure that whoever has the microphone, which is generally the professor, doesn't walk away with it.
Oh, yeah. You need to collect it every time.
It could be embarrassing. You just don't.
Yes, exactly. It's like in a conferences and they mic me up.
it was so funny. Yeah, exactly. It was funny because I had a adult woman who didn't want to do it. She was just so hesitant. And I said, why don't you take it home, test it out at home? And she came back. She was so excited. She could hear her husband calling her from the other room. And she could never hear this before.
Wow.
And she just, after that, she used it all the time. So
that's a good point that you make, is making that impression on our kids that these are life-changing things that they're advocating for. Not just this is a device, or this is, just something good to ask for. But this really does help you be able to integrate better into the classroom society.